turn one. Hello. Jonathan Munsell here. This is the first installment of the 2022 Jimmy and Jonny show. And I'm waiting for my partner in crime, Jimmy Bornamann, to join us. But I figured I would at least get us moving so we can start the conversation. He'll come in, I'm sure, and add some interesting insight into it. So I'm going to go through some stuff today. The biggest thing that I really wanted to cover coming out into the new year, besides a little bit of an update and see what's going on in the world with Jimmy, I wanted to actually go through a whole bunch about systems. So as 2021 was drawing to a close, I found that we're spending a lot of time fine-tuning systems. So systems, are key when you think about the pillars of success, right? They're built on a foundation of bedrock that needs to be based off of pillars, right? The pillars are there, and the systems are the bedrock that holds up the roof. Okay, so without good systems, and everything has systems. So think about just any day you have a business, it's got to open, right? So what's the first thing that happens? Somebody shows up and opens the door, right? Then they go in, they flip on the lights, they check the air conditioning, right? If you're a restaurant person, before you even get in the building, you walk around outside and make sure that everything's secure and everything looks good and is good and safe and sound inside of outside before you get inside. And you go and you check the night before's closing. How does everything look? Did they leave everything organized, well, clean? Those types of things are all systems that need to happen. And whether you have it or not, or you think you have it or not, systems are there. So some people have them written. I'm kind of nuts about having a checklist and people checking the system, because without that, I feel that the systems erode over time. So if you have it, make sure people are following it. But even if you don't, and you find that there's chaos in your life or in your business, it's probably because the system is running you and you're not running the system. So towards the end of the year, we've done just a tremendous amount with our company to expand and really innovate some new and exciting things. The systems start to stress. So, what works for you, in my world, I own, a couple national franchises, one of which has 40 locations across the country for mobile detailing and fixed site locations, all over airports. So it's the largest auto care franchise in the country. So we're everywhere. And as we started adding and we grew and we doubled last year, even through COVID, the systems were really stretching. When we have 20 vehicles out on the road, it's one thing. When you have 100, it's another. And what worked at 20 doesn't work at 100. So we literally spent time really working on that, re-engineering a bit of how we look at the company. And the biggest thing that I found systems wise for me that's currently having the biggest impact is really around having what we call an entrepreneurial operating system. It's really how the system that holds all of the leadership together and then holds everybody underneath. So we've been really working on revamping that, and it's based on a complete platform of accountability. So people understand what their role is, they understand all the pieces of their roles, and then they ultimately have, what we call rocks that they need to move. And all this is based off of a book called Traction. So if you have not ever checked out Traction, it is worth a read or a listen. I'm an audiobook guy. It's absolutely worth a listen. And then there's another one, if you just want to start out and just dip your toe in the water on what this is and what this is all about. They have, a book called What the Heck is EOS? And it's really the book that we give out to people that are coming into our company. And we share that with them because it's kind of a layman's term explanation of what's going to happen as they roll through the business. So everybody has roles, everybody has rocks. And the next big thing is a scorecard. It's how are we measuring the success? And everything really can be based on a number. In most businesses, it at the very least should be sales and profit. Okay. In most cases, people always want to grow sales. Well, you know what? I want to grow sales, but the reality is I'd rather grow profit. But an indicator of a healthy company is your ability to grow sales and your ability to keep pace with the profit as you go. Sometimes you grow sales and you lose profit. So the adverse would be grow profit and keep sales at least the same or slightly growing. Existing companies that have been around for a long time, legacies, restaurants, think of like, an Olive Garden, Olive Garden, that one store that's been there for 20 years doesn't have the same growth as a store that opened up last year that's just getting its traction. They might experience 10%, 20% growth, but the expectation in all those companies is that they're growing sales. And if not, that trend, you can look at the scorecard and you can say, hey, what do I need to do? Because that trend and the scorecard, isn't going in the right direction. So those are like three fundamental pieces that we find inside of any business. Okay. So another good one, that when I think about systems, if you've ever had the opportunity, there's a whole business assessment that we have and we utilize with Success Systems and in every company that I own. So the baseline of that is this tool that we call a business assessment. And the business assessment came out of years of me consulting for companies and literally going into a business, walking from the front door to the back door and looking at how they operate. And, and I started out doing that for restaurants. And then, I had people asking me like, hey, can you do that for me? I have, a small business, I have a handyman thing. And then ultimately one day a guy with a car wash asked me to do the same thing and look at this little piece of mobile business that he had, that he was, that was the only thing growing. This is like back in like 2011. As I date myself, these gray hairs are real. By the way, I went in and I did that assessment and, ended up building the largest mobile car care company in the world. But that all came out of this exact platform, this exact building of systems as the foundation of the pillars for success. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of it. So as we continue to grow our company, and we're always onboarding new folks, we're adding new locations. We just added this massive complex in Atlanta called Atlantic Station, huge complex, 120 acres. It's got like a whole city on top of it, and it's got an IKEA, a Target, 7,200 parking spots. Well, when you launch something that large, and we have 5 operations there, and you got to get it all going. So, fundamentally, it goes back to, when we go through what I'm going to talk about, like there's this baseline of what you need to be sound in your business. We always look to be operationally sound. Well, that's every piece of your business, whether it's, the people side, which is hugely important. You have the operation side, you have the, service and customer service, marketing, sales, management, financial. Well, if any one of those are off, you're going to have difficulties. So you got to, kind of shore up the roof simultaneously. So we're doing that. So when we onboard new people, the thing I'm finding now is that there's a little bit of a gap from what I take as just years of experience and understanding and using this system and what people that come out and maybe have worked in a business and have held a job and maybe they move to a supervisor, but now you come work with me and there's a huge swath of territory that you are responsible for. You have multiple reports, multiple managers, and that's a different skill set. And I take it for granted, and I apologize to those in the organization because to me it just makes sense, and it's what I've done for a very, very long time. So I've gone back to my roots, and some of what I asked Jimmy about, we were talking the other day when we kind of teed this up, was people don't know the origin of systems. And any good company, and now I own franchise companies, they're built on that, but those systems started somewhere. So Jimmy and I were laughing and joking about some of where these things came from. So I wanted to share a little bit of that today. So in our company, We utilize all kinds of great tools, and we have this thing that we call the blue book, right? Our color in the company is blue book. So this actually, here's a tool that's available to everybody that I'm scrolling through. But there's all kinds of information, and this is what we utilize when we ever help somebody. We're trying to assess a business. We need some data to do it. But ultimately, you end up at this like kind of big checklist, right? Look at this beast. Okay. So this thing has, I don't even know how many it has on it these days, but I don't know, 100 things on it. And we actually have a scale, and after this video, there'll be a link where you can actually go through the business assessment yourself.
It's already in the chat.
Excuse me, it's already in the chat. How about that? Technology at its finest. So there's a link to the business assessment. So when you go to the business assessment, you're not just going to get smacked in the face with this. So it's in bite size, and it kind of walks you through. And these are kind of more formatted in questions. Do you have things? Do you not have things? Or do you not even know what they are? Or do they not apply to your business? So there's kind of 4 choices as you go through. But if you do it, it takes about 5 minutes for you to go through the assessment. And when you do it, you'll come out of it on the other end. We give you a copy of it so you have it. So you can oh my God, I went through that thing and there was like 10 things I knew that I really wanted to work on. We give you a copy of it. And if you actually want somebody from our company to actually walk through with you and spend some time, we offer that as a free service. So we help people all day, every day, from all kinds of far-flung parts of the world. I was on the phone yesterday with people in Kuwait. Not something you think you're going to do every day, but hey, it happens. So as I'm going through this, one of the things we realized that we need to get better at was the process around onboarding. So I do a whole thing about what I call the simple plan, and it's really the components of this that are most important that you can utilize in your business, and I just kind of lay them all out. Well, when I lay that out, there's an expectation that there's certain things that exist. Well, what happens when none of that exists? And we have clients, and we work with people all the time, and I've had clients over decades of doing this that they had nothing, they didn't know where to start, right? We're talking about bringing on new people and growing the business. Well, they don't have anything to do that. They've never hired anybody. They're solopreneurs. They operate by themselves every day, and you don't need those things. You don't need a checklist for how to set something up if you work by yourself. So when you start to think about that, you're like, okay, well, God, I've been using this stuff for so long. Maybe I need to dig in deeper and give a deeper understanding. So, when it comes down to it, like I said before, you have systems, you have things going on in your business that are systematizable. The first thing I tell everybody is to just start making a list, right? Like I talked about going in, you open the front door, you turn on the lights, you check the cash register. So the first thing is systems. You start writing them down. And then get that, okay? And I teach a trick. It's really about, it's a concept called massive content creation. It's one of the tools that we utilize, and you wonder how I'm able to run 2 big franchise companies and a marketing company, well, and be everywhere kind of simultaneously. That's not done without a lot of help. But the thing that we do all the time, and the thing that will happen after this particular session, is they will take the audio from this, they'll transcribe it, and then this thing, when you take me talking for 30 minutes and transcribe it, the Jersey in me that talks fast and moves quickly, and when you format that thing, it's about 30 pages. So if you really want to build a manual or anything for yourself, I see stuff online sometimes, how to write a book in 7 days. I think I could write a book in 7 hours. And the way I would do it is I would start with the table of contents first, and then I would just talk about the things that I know about those. So imagine I took this list that you guys have up on the screen, and imagine I just went line by line and really detailed explained all of those things so that people get a deeper understanding. We transcribed it. It's a book. Well, the funny thing is that there is a book that this has been made out of in the past. But I wanted to talk about a couple of them, and the thing that I saw recently as we're onboarding kind of, a new generation of managers. The thing that I saw was that we have to give them more of the why things exist than we ever have before. So before it's here's the system, do it, and you get it over time, but they need more explanation. They need buy-in. And I think it's important that everybody recognizes that the culture of the world has changed and employees are definitely harder to come by, harder to keep. They don't want to work per se. If you find ones that don't fit into those categories, I would hire them and give them some golden handcuffs and make them love you and stay with you forever. That's what I recommend. But the thing that we talk about the fundamentals, if you don't have a job description and you want to hire somebody, what do? Right? That's like you go to Indeed and you look there and you're like, oh my God, well, Indeed has some samples. Start there and then put the things that you care about. So everything that in your business and every system that gets built, ultimately, it's very personable to you as the owner or you as the management staff that's like building it. It's yours. It's coming out of your brain. But all the time, we start with templates. I'll go back to old job descriptions and like look at them and make sure they're up to date or make sure they have that. We used a job description, we got good people, but they all were missing this one thing. Well, let's add that to the next time we hire so we don't miss that. And we do assessments and all kinds of like intellectual things while we do that. But the fundamentals of it are having a conversation and figuring out what people are about. And there's always a question that I ask some core questions. And the one question, if you ask anybody in my company, that I ask everybody that gets hired, what do I ask?
How much do you need to make to live as you need or wish?
How much do you need to make to live as you need or wish? If you've ever been hired or ever worked with me, you know that I asked that question. And it's important because I want to know what people need to live as they need or wish. And it becomes, people are always like put off by it. Like it takes like 2 years just to learn how to ask the question. But once you understand it, you understand what we're asking for. It's really about figuring out, they might come in and I might have a job that pays $15 an hour and they come in and they want to make $20 an hour. So what happens? Fundamentally, I may hire them and offer them $15 an hour. They may say yes, but they're always looking for the job for $20 an hour. So what's going to happen is they're going to start with me because they need to get by. They got bills to pay. And then they're going to go find that job and they're going to leave me. Well, what happens when I have a job that pays $15 an hour and somebody needs $12 an hour? And then I go, you know what? I'm going to bring you in at 13, right? So they're happy. They got a job for more than they thought they needed or were expecting. So now they're already in a great spot. But now, a month down the road, I know I have 15 bucks in my brain. They do really well. We sit down and do a 30-day review. And I say, hey, I'm going to give you another $1 an hour. Well, that person's going to be like the Kool-Aid guy and he's going to run through a wall for me. That's the type of experience you want to have. So fundamentally, when you're hiring people, it's important to know what they want. It's important to know their ambitions, right? Is the job even going to have enough for them? We've done an amazing job in just, the car care industry to build a path for people. Before it was like, if you came to a car wash, they duct tape a vacuum to your hand and you're bent over for 8 hours, vacuuming cars. And we don't actually duct tape it to your hand. We have special gloves with Velcro. Just kidding. But the point of it is that, you got to show this person that, yes, you need to do that. You need to fundamentally understand it. But at the end of the day, if you do that well, then you move to this position and you can, start to run the crew. Then you move to the supervisor and you start to run a store. Then you move to the next level and you have multiple stores. So there is a real career path that exists, in a company like ours. And that still should exist in even smaller companies, because if you're growing and on a growth path and you're that one guy who's never hired an employee, paint your picture and your vision. It's like, I'm hiring you so we can grow. And the goal is that we're going to grow and we're going to add, 3 more people. Well, guess what? You're the first one through the door. So my expectation would be that you're going to continue to rise up as we hire people. So that's a little bit of the baseline of just even around hiring. But the one system that I find that people don't get, and even internally in our company, so we constantly roll up financials. So when we roll up financials at the end of the day, they go into the point of sale system and they have to take the number, they have to take their sales and they have to put it into, an Excel, Google sheet, whatever. They have to put it in there and it's like, okay, here's my sales, here's my number of services, here's my labor for the day, so they move the numbers, right? Well, the reality is that I get sent a report right out of that system every single day, every single night. So why have them move the numbers? And it goes back legacy years for me. And originally, like right now, so they take those numbers, they move them over. and then they have to send in what we call numbers and comments. So not only do they have to move the numbers, but when they put them in there, the things light up green and different colors. Green good, red bad. Like, so I want comments on like, well, you said you were going to do $400 in labor, but you use 600. Like, what's the $200? So they have to explain it. Well, the reality is that that sheet originally started. I can go pull up the original financial summary, and it says at the top, call-in sheet. And we were laughing, Jimmy and I, the other day, and it was about, that whole thing started from back in the day that, I ran 11 different brands and restaurants. I had Dulles, National, BWI, Pittsburgh, it's things all over the place. And every single night, people would call me and be like, hi, this is Susie from Freshen's Yogurt 148. And today we had $152 in sales, and labor was 17%, and we threw away 2 ice cream cones. And she'd call into a voicemail, and then in the morning, somebody'd have to go to the voicemail, listen to Susie, and be like, okay, type in the numbers so they could send them over to me. And that literally is where it started. But the thing is that Susie, right, a high schooler working at the Pittsburgh airport at a Freshen's Yogurt, she knew the numbers, and she knew that she had certain targets and benchmarks that she had to hit. She knew she had a scorecard of information and data that was important to the company that she needed to be aware of. Well, heck, I'm sure Susie's like the CEO of a company these days, but Susie could do it. There's no reason that anybody that runs any single store for us, anybody that's been through high school and can drive a vehicle, right? They can't do that basic of things. So I always hear sometimes about systems and, oh, it's redundant. Well, the redundancy is because of the years of having people that weren't able to do it. So, why do you think I said when you go in the morning to open, you check the close, right? It's because you got to figure out, you got to make sure that things are rolling. So, it's just like when I pass off a shift in any business and I'm the daytime person, the nighttime person's coming, we have a shift meeting. And we literally we sit down and we go through it. It's like, you count the safe and they count the safe. Okay, the safe is yours. Hey, here's where everything is. Okay, you good? I'm good. I'm out of here. Peace. Well, that's a good passing of the shift. Well, we've all worked in places where somebody comes in late, there's no time, the person from the daytime's got to leave, and then they pass it. Next thing you know, at night, they're $50 short and the thing's a mess. So the systems are really, really fundamental. And understanding that these systems evolved from a phone call, from a piece of paper, and it doesn't need to be complex. You're not a computer person. It's okay. I like paper. In our stores, we have this blue book I talked about. It's got the entirety 4 days. You flip the page, there's more into to-do lists and things, and they write it down. Well, now it's the digital age. It'd be nice to just put it on the computer, but the reality is that them touching the numbers is what keeps it intact. So if they have to write things down, I have people that work with me and they're in a meeting and I'm trying to have a back and forth, and they're like, no, I need to write that down. And that's the way they burn it in their brain, is by writing it down. So, and that's, hey, if I understand my people, I give them the opportunity to do it. They can write things down. So, another great story about how automation and taking a system too far can actually screw you up. So, I worked with a company, we had, all these restaurants and all these airports, and we had a system where the numbers got sucked out. The numbers, the guy would take them and move the numbers, and he would have to focus on his labor, and he'd have to type it in. And then at this point, we're emailing. Well, the owner of the company was like, God, that just seems like a big waste of time. And we had a pretty complex scheduling system. We knew sales by the half hour and line bar schedules and some really cool stuff, but really core fundamentally, everything I teach and all the stuff that you see on this list. And, there's more down here that you'll see, everything is really about just really core, hardcore, solid, simple systems. So, well, the owner got, a bug up his ass, And he said, you know what, I'm going to take the data right out of the cash register. I'm going to get it to fill out that thing. And, the managers are going to love it. They're going to get to leave and go home early. And, and everybody's going to be happier. Okay. Guy spends about $50,000 developing the system that's going to take it and drop it in the schedule, and everything's going to be just magic, right? Well, he spent $50,000, and after 1 month of utilizing it, he lost $100,000. Okay, program scrapped. Okay, but why did he lose it? It's because the people lost touch with the numbers. The managers weren't looking at labor anymore. So, the difference of, them spending 5 minutes at the end of the day and typing in a few numbers and really knowing their labor and being accountable for it and realizing, oh, my labor's high, or hey, maybe my labor's too low and I could have done more sales. Well, by not doing that anymore and all that went away, the guy ends up with, labor going up by 5 points, and next thing 5 points on a couple $1,000,000, like, he's out of pocket a ton of money. Well, okay, scrap it. It's out of here. Go back to the drawing board. And we went right back to the same thing. And the same system I use today, or in its similar, started out as what we call a call-in sheet. So a little lesson in the origins of some of that. But I'm telling you, there's just some real core things that you have to have. And I'll finish up this just like I started it. You got to have, everybody's got to know their roles. Like, what are they responsible for? What do they need to do? What is the definition of success at the end of the day for them? They got to have rocks. Like, they got to be either working on themselves or working on the business or working on some opportunity in the business to make it better. So the business is always growing and people are evolving, right? Sometimes projects or rocks are really about them developing themselves to get to the next level. And then you have to have a scorecard. You got to have metrics that people are being held accountable to, that they have to show up and report. Okay, so anything measured improves. Anything that's measured and reported improves exponentially. So keep that in mind while you're doing this. It's not just as good as they filled out the checklist, but like, are they showing up and are they accountable for it? Are they hitting their numbers? And are they really following the systems that you have? And if you don't have them, you can build them. If you want to get a hold of the assessment, grab the link and you can kind of check that out. And it's yours. Go do whatever you want with it. It's kind of my give back. I've been doing this a long time, and I really just want to see entrepreneurs, business people, people that want to get ahead in life. I just want to see them get ahead in life. If we all work hard and we all work well together and we're all working towards making the world a better place, I think the world should be a better place. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you got something from this. If you have, certainly leave a comment, certainly hit the bell and make sure you subscribe. And we're going to be rolling these regularly on a weekly basis. And there's another guy, I wish I had like a cutout of Jimmy, to be with me on my first one of this year. But Jimmy Bornamann, my counterpart, go check out some of the other episodes. He's usually smoking a cigar. He's a beautiful gentleman, and you guys will get to enjoy him some more this year as well. So I hope everybody starts out the year really strong, and I hope everybody has a fantastic 2022. Thanks for tuning in.